Listen, what's happening to you right now is not random. The people leaving, the doors closing, the sudden silence. It's all part of a secret plan you can't see yet. Allah is moving pieces you don't even know exist. And when you finally understand why, it'll change the way you see everything. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll realize why Allah disconnects you from everyone before He elevates you. 1. Allah pulls you away to protect what you can't see yet. Sometimes, without any warning, Allah begins to remove you from people, places, and paths you thought you'd stay connected to forever. And it breaks you. You sit in silence, trying to understand. Your chest feels heavy, your heart restless, your mind full of unanswered questions. Why is this happening to me? Did I do something wrong? Why would Allah take away what I thought I needed most? But what you cannot yet see is that this is not rejection. This is not punishment, this is protection. Because Allah knows things your heart does not. He hears conversations you never heard. He witnesses betrayals you didn't recognize. He sees traps you would have walked straight into, smiling, trusting, unaware. And so, He removes you, gently, quietly, suddenly. But because you can't yet see what He sees, your heart resists. You cling harder to what He's pulling away from you. You beg Him to let you keep what He's trying to replace. You cry for answers, but the silence only deepens. And yet, in that silence, something sacred is happening. You are being protected in ways you don't understand. That sudden disconnection you can't explain. That friend who stopped calling. That door that slammed shut without warning. That relationship you thought would last forever, but didn't. It wasn't random, it wasn't cruel, it wasn't meaningless. This is divine surgery. Allah is cutting away what would have poisoned your future. He's removing the people who would have wounded your spirit. He's protecting you from battles you don't even know were waiting for you. And yes, it hurts. Because the heart grieves what it doesn't understand. You replay memories, you overthink conversations, you wonder if you weren't good enough. But your worth was never the reason. The truth is, not everyone around you carries clean intentions. Not every circle is safe for your soul. Not every hand you hold today was written to hold yours tomorrow. Some people were only sent for a chapter, not the entire story. Some places were only meant to teach you, not to keep you. Some connections were written only to break you enough to bring you closer to Allah. And so He moves you away from them, away from places you thought were safe, away from versions of yourself that no longer serve where He's taking you. You don't see it yet, but He is rescuing you from rooms where your spirit would have died slowly. He is saving you from doors that looked beautiful, but hid pain behind them. He is protecting you from battles you didn't even know existed. You feel abandoned, but the truth is, you're being protected. You feel left behind. But the reality is, you're being pulled forward. Right now, Allah is moving you into a space you don't yet understand. He's rearranging your life to prepare you for a version of yourself that even you haven't met yet. And because elevation requires protection, He first separates. Before He blesses you openly, He shields you privately. If He let you stay where you were, your heart would have been harmed. Your spirit would have been drained. Your destiny would have been delayed. So He whispers to your soul, you can't grow there. Come with me. One day, you'll look back and finally understand. One day, you'll connect the dots and realize that what broke you today was the same thing that saved you tomorrow. And you'll thank Him. You'll thank Him for every unanswered dua, for every closed door, for every person who left when you begged them to stay, for every silence you mistook for abandonment. Because you'll see it clearly, none of it was punishment. It was protection wearing the disguise of pain. You aren't being abandoned, you're being rescued. You see, the people you thought were permanent, they were only bridges. They were only doors. They were only chapters Allah wrote to take you from where you were to where you needed to be. but your heart clung to them as if they were the destination. And that's why letting go feels like bleeding. It's not easy to accept that something that once felt right is no longer part of your future. But Allah saw things you couldn't. He heard things you didn't, and He loved you too much to leave you where you were. Sometimes protection doesn't feel like protection at all. Sometimes mercy looks like loss. Sometimes blessings arrive wearing the disguise of heartbreak. And so Allah begins the quiet rearrangement of your life. Not loudly, not publicly, but gently, softly, silently. One person drifts away, one door closes, one plan falls apart. And at first, it feels like chaos. But slowly, you start to notice a pattern. Everything leaving has one thing in common: it was no longer meant to grow with you. Because elevation requires separation, and separation requires trust. Right now, you're living in the space between who you were and who you're becoming. It's uncomfortable, it's lonely, it's confusing. But in this in-between, Allah is doing His deepest work. He's stripping away what distracts you from Him. He's removing what blocks your dua. He's clearing the noise around you so you can finally hear His whispers. This is why you feel lost. This is why you feel forgotten. This is why life feels paused. But the truth is, you are not forgotten. You are being prepared. Your heartbreak, your isolation, your unanswered prayers, they are the evidence that Allah is rebuilding you privately before He elevates you publicly. And this rebuilding isn't just about changing your surroundings. It's about changing you, the version of you that's coming. The one Allah is shaping right now cannot survive in the rooms you used to sit in, cannot stay in the friendships that kept you small, cannot hold on to desires that once chained your heart. So He pulls you out, not because you asked Him to, but because He loves you too much not to. And yes, I know it hurts. I know it feels like a punishment, but it's not. This is divine mercy disguised as pain. One day, you'll see why that friendship had to end, why that relationship couldn't last, why that opportunity slipped through your fingers, why the very thing you thought you needed most was the thing Allah took away first. Because you'll realize He wasn't subtracting to harm you, He was subtracting to multiply you. Right now you're standing in a season of silence and separation, and your soul aches to understand. But Allah's plan always works backwards. First, He hides you. Then, He refines you. And only when He's done preparing you in private, does He reveal you in public. And when that day comes, you won't just rise. You'll rise so high that even you won't recognize the person you've become. You'll see clearly what you can't see today, that the very things that broke your heart were the same things that saved your soul. And in that moment, you'll whisper to yourself, through tears you can't hold back, Ya Allah, now I understand. Because you'll finally know He was never taking anything from you. He was only making room for what He's always written for you. 2. Isolation is Allah's loudest invitation. The phone doesn't ring like it used to. The chats are quiet. The people who once filled your life have disappeared. And you sit there, staring at the ceiling some nights, wondering why it feels like the world has turned its back on you. Ya Allah, why am I suddenly so alone? Why did you take everyone away from me? And the silence answers back softly. Not with words, but with signs you haven't yet learned how to read. Because this isn't punishment, this isn't rejection, this is an invitation from Allah, pulling you gently, softly, quietly back to Him. Sometimes Allah loves you too much to let you stay distracted. He watches you give pieces of your heart to people who were never meant to hold them. He sees how easily your soul is drowned in voices louder than His whispers. He knows how deeply your worth depends on their attention, and He knows where that path leads. So He clears it. One by one, He moves the faces out of your way. One by one, He closes the doors you thought would always stay open. One by one, He separates you from the noise that kept you from hearing Him. It feels like loss, but it's mercy in disguise. Because isolation is where you learn what presence truly means. You used to think you were surrounded, but still you felt unseen. You used to think you were loved, but still you felt empty. And now, as everything grows quiet, Allah is teaching you that His love is the only one that fills without leaving holes. He's calling you into a season where your du'as rise louder than your distractions, where your tears fall more freely in sujood than in anyone else's presence, where your heart learns to find comfort in conversations no one else hears. This is why the silence feels heavy, because Allah is stripping away what blinded you so He can show you what you forgot. That no one sees you like He sees you. No one hears you like He hears you. No one loves you like He loves you, and yet your heart fights it. It aches for the familiar. It begs to be understood by those who were never written to understand your soul. It keeps trying to reopen doors that Allah Himself locked for your protection. But listen carefully. What Allah removes, He replaces, and what He replaces, He makes better than what you begged Him to keep. Right now, your world looks emptier, but your soul is about to feel fuller, because this silence isn't punishment. It's space. Space for you to return. Space for you to rediscover the voice you've been ignoring. Space for Allah to become your closest companion before anyone else ever can. The nights that feel endless, those are sacred invitations. Every unanswered message, every fading friendship, every door that closed without warning, each one is Allah whispering, "You needed me more than you needed them." He doesn't just want pieces of you. He wants your heart whole. He wants to rebuild you where the world left cracks. He wants to become the friend you never lose, the refuge you never question, the love that never leaves. And so He calls you into isolation, not to break you, but to bring you back to Him. Sometimes you wonder, why now? Why all at once? Why did everyone start fading away? Why did the ones you trusted the most suddenly drift into silence? Why do you sit in crowded rooms and still feel like a stranger? It's because Allah is rearranging your soul. He is removing every voice, every distraction, every false refuge, until only His voice remains. Because when you are surrounded, you forget how to seek Him. But when you are left alone, you begin to hear Him everywhere. This is not loneliness. This is divine alignment. He sees the nights you cry silently, the mornings you wake up with an ache in your chest, the confusion that won't leave your thoughts. And in His infinite mercy, He draws you closer, sometimes by force, because He knows your heart better than you do. This is why isolation hurts. Because before Allah speaks, He first silences everything else. The silence around you is sacred. It's not empty. It's full of Him. Every unanswered message, every friend who stopped checking on you, every circle that no longer feels like home, is Allah slowly creating space where only He remains. You think you've been forgotten, but you've actually been chosen. Because the people you used to lean on, the ones you thought you couldn't live without, they were standing between you and the closeness you once begged Allah for. Remember the du'as you whispered months ago? Ya Allah, bring me closer to you. Ya Allah, guide me. And now, here you are, alone, quiet, stripped of the noise that kept you distracted. This is the answer. It doesn't look like what you expected, but it's everything you prayed for. Sometimes guidance doesn't arrive as light. Sometimes it comes as separation. Sometimes the path back to Allah is paved with closed doors and quiet nights, because He wants you to know something deeply. People leave, seasons change, but He never does. And when you finally feel the weight of that truth, your heart softens in ways it never did before. Your sujood feels heavier. Your du'as carry tears you didn't know you had. Your whispers to Him become louder than your need for anyone else's presence. That's when you realize this isolation isn't abandonment. It's an invitation to intimacy with Allah. He removed them so you would find Him. He silenced the world so you could hear his whispers. He took away your plans so you would trust his. And in those quiet nights where only he remains, you'll start to feel something unexpected. Peace. Because the moment you stop chasing the ones who left and start answering the one who's calling you back, your heart finally rests where it was always meant to be. You'll begin to see every loss differently. Every unanswered call was his protection. Every faded friendship was his mercy. Every closed door was him preparing you for something far better. And one day, you'll look back at this season of silence and smile through tears, because what felt like abandonment was actually Allah saying softly, "I missed you. Come back to me." 3. The elevation always begins in hiding. You keep wondering why nobody notices you, why your name isn't being called, why your efforts seem invisible, why life feels paused when your heart is begging to move forward. And deep inside, you whisper, "Ya Allah, when will my time come?" But what you don't yet see is this. Elevation never begins in the spotlight. It always begins in hiding. Before Allah reveals you to the world, he conceals you for himself. Because what he's building inside you right now cannot survive the noise of where you've been. What he's preparing you for requires silence, refinement, and reshaping. This is why doors remain closed. This is why your plans keep falling through. This is why people overlook you. Not because you're unworthy, but because Allah is still working on the version of you that will step into what he has written. You see, the dunya celebrates speed, but Allah writes in seasons. Musa alayhi salam was hidden for years. Before he stood before Pharaoh, Yusuf alayhi salam spent years in a prison cell, before his dream finally came true. Even our beloved prophet, peace be upon him, was known as Al-Amin. But his mission, his real unveiling, didn't begin until Allah declared, "Arise and warn." Because destiny is always prepared in the dark, long before it's revealed in the light. And right now, you are in that hidden place. You feel small, invisible, forgotten, but you are not forgotten. You are being prepared. Allah hides you so he can refine you without distraction. He slows you down so you can learn patience, because what's coming next will demand more from your heart than you've ever given. He shields you from the spotlight, because your roots aren't deep enough yet to carry the weight of what's above the surface. Elevation without foundation destroys a person, and Allah loves you too much to let you rise before you're ready. Right now, the world doesn't know your name, because it's not supposed to. Your story isn't meant to unfold yet. Behind the veil, Allah is polishing your character, strengthening your faith, breaking your pride, and planting seeds of resilience where you once felt weak. That frustration you feel, that restlessness in your chest, that silent ache in your soul, it's not because you're behind, it's because your spirit can sense that something bigger than you is already in motion. So don't mistake silence for abandonment. Don't confuse being overlooked with being forgotten. This is Allah's secret preparation. The kind of preparation he does for the souls he intends to elevate. Because the unveiling that's coming cannot be undone. The path he's written for you cannot be stopped. And when he finally declares, "Now," no force in this dunya will be able to hold you back. But first, he hides you. He slows you. He reshapes you. Because the person you are today isn't strong enough yet to carry what he's about to place in your hands. You see, Allah hides those he loves the most, not to break them, but to build them. Because if he unveiled you too soon, the weight of the blessing would crush you. If he placed you where you've been dreaming to stand, without first strengthening your heart, it would destroy you faster than it elevates you. So he keeps you hidden, like a seed beneath the soil, buried in darkness, forgotten by the world, but watched over by the one who planted it. It looks dead to everyone else. It looks like nothing is happening. But deep beneath the surface, the seed is breaking, stretching, gathering strength quietly, for the day it finally rises into the light. That's you right now, buried but not forgotten, hidden but not abandoned, breaking but only because you're growing. This is why the silence feels so heavy, because Allah is working on you in ways the world can't see. Every unanswered dua, every delayed dream, every door that refuses to open is part of a divine strategy to prepare your soul before He elevates your life. And you're not the first. Musa alayhi salam wasn't unveiled until he'd spent years away from home, humbled in Midian, refined in silence, taught to trust Allah before facing Fir'aun. Yusuf alayhi salam wasn't recognized until he endured betrayal, separation, false accusations, and the crushing stillness of a prison cell. Even our beloved prophet, peace be upon him, spent years in spiritual solitude, his heart being purified, his vision being sharpened, before the first words of revelation descended upon him, "Read in the name of your Allah." All of them were hidden first, because Allah always builds in private before He reveals in public. And that's exactly what He's doing with you. He is training your patience. He is softening your heart. He is teaching your soul to breathe without depending on the applause of others. Because where He's taking you, crowds can't carry you. Fame won't sustain you. Status won't save you. Only your closeness to Him will. This season of hiding isn't punishment. It's proof that you are chosen, because Allah doesn't prepare loudly for small destinies. He prepares quietly for those He intends to elevate beyond what the world expects. One day, when the doors open, they'll open all at once. The delays will make sense. The silence will feel sacred, and every unanswered prayer will suddenly look like mercy. You'll look back and realize this time in hiding wasn't wasted. It was where you were sharpened, where you were protected, where Allah whispered secrets into your soul that no one else was meant to hear. And on that day, when Allah finally unveils you to the world, it won't be your name they glorify. It will be His, because everyone watching will know you didn't get there by yourself. You were placed there by the one who hid you until you were ready. So don't mistake your season of silence for rejection. Don't confuse being overlooked with being forgotten. This is divine preparation, and the fact that you're hidden right now is proof that something far greater is being written for you. Trust the author, trust His timing, trust the hiding, because the same Allah who keeps you unseen today will make you unforgettable tomorrow. You think being hidden means being overlooked, but what if I told you? It's the opposite. What if your invisibility right now is the loudest proof that Allah is watching you closely? What if this silence, this waiting, this pause in your life is not because you are behind, but because Allah is ahead of you, preparing what you prayed for before He places you inside it? You see, the world glorifies speed. It tells you success is about being seen first, heard first, chosen first. But Allah writes differently. With Him, elevation is never rushed, because anything built too quickly crumbles just as fast. So He slows you down. He hides you. He silences rooms that once celebrated you. He removes faces you thought you'd need forever, because He's teaching you something the world never will. Your strength must come from Him, not from them. The hiding feels lonely. It feels like a punishment, but in reality, it's the most intimate season of your life. This is where Allah draws closest to you. This is where He whispers things to your heart that no one else was meant to hear. This is where He purifies your intentions. So when the doors finally open, your purpose is clear, your heart is clean, and your soul is anchored in Him alone. And that's the difference between worldly success and divine elevation. Worldly success shows you off before you're ready. Divine elevation hides you until you're unshakable. Look at the stories Allah gave us. When Yusuf upon him be peace was thrown into the well, he thought he'd been forgotten. When he was locked away in the prison, he thought his dreams had died. But Allah was writing His unveiling. In the very moments Yusuf thought his life had been buried, when Musa alayhi salam fled into the desert, he thought he'd lost everything, his home, his people, his purpose. But in that wilderness, Allah was preparing him for a mission he couldn't yet imagine. Even our beloved Prophet, peace be upon him, the most loved by Allah, was kept hidden for 40 years before a single verse of revelation came down, and when it did, the world would never be the same again. Because with Allah, delays are never denials. Hiding is never punishment, it is preparation. And that's where you are right now. It hurts to be unseen. It aches to be misunderstood. It confuses you to watch others run ahead while you feel stuck in place. But you are not stuck. You are being anchored. Because where Allah is taking you, you can't afford to be weak. You can't depend on the crowd. You can't survive on shallow faith. So He puts you in this season where it's just you and Him, where He breaks everything you thought you needed, so you'll finally realize He was all you ever needed. This is the quiet workshop of the soul. This is where He strips away everything false until only the real you remains. And when He's finished with you, you won't just be ready. You'll be unrecognizable to your old self. Your pain will turn into wisdom, your heartbreak into clarity, your delays into direction. And one day, the same people who overlooked you, who doubted you, who walked away from you, will watch as Allah elevates you so openly, so undeniably, that they'll have no choice but to say, "This was Allah's plan all along." And on that day, you'll finally understand what you can't see now. This hiding, this silence, this waiting. It wasn't a pause. It was positioning, because Allah hides His strongest servants until the world is ready to witness what He has been building in private. 4. You outgrew what would have chained you. Have you noticed how some places don't feel the same anymore? How some people you once laughed endlessly with now leave you silent? How conversations that once lit your soul now feel empty? And maybe you've been questioning yourself lately. Why don't I fit in anymore? Why does everything feel so different? Why do I feel like I don't belong anywhere? The answer is simple. You've outgrown the spaces that once kept you small. The version of you Allah is building right now cannot breathe in the same air that once comforted your old self. You've been praying for elevation, for clarity, for growth. But growth has a price. You no longer fit where you used to. Allah expanded you. He stretched your soul, your heart, your vision. And when He widens your spirit, it becomes impossible to shrink back into rooms that chain your destiny. This is why the doors shut. This is why the calls stopped. This is why the people you thought would stay forever drifted. It's not that something is wrong with you, it's that something greater is being written for you. You were never meant to stay small. You were never meant to dim your light, just to make others comfortable. But had Allah left you in those circles, you would have been trapped in versions of yourself that were never designed to survive the future He's preparing for you. Some people loved the old you, the version that tolerated less, dreamed smaller, accepted less than you deserved. But Allah knew the new you wouldn't survive there. So He quietly started disconnecting you. One by one, the bonds loosened. One by one, the faces faded. One by one, the places you thought were home stopped feeling like home. It feels lonely, it feels confusing, but it isn't loss, it's liberation. Because if you stayed in those rooms, your destiny would have been delayed. If you stayed connected to those who chained your growth, you would have become a prisoner to their comfort zones. Allah loved you too much to let you stay where you didn't belong anymore. That opportunity you thought was everything, the one you begged Allah to keep open, the one that slipped through your hands no matter how hard you fought for it. It wasn't rejection, it was redirection. Allah heard the conversations behind your back. He saw what your trusting heart couldn't, and He knew that staying there would have cost you the future you've been praying for. So He shut the door, even when you cried for Him to keep it open. Not because He wanted to hurt you, but because He was protecting the future you that you haven't met yet. The places you no longer fit, the people you no longer connect with, the dreams that no longer pull at your heart the way they once did. All of it is evidence that Allah is expanding you beyond what once felt enough. There comes a point in your journey where even you won't recognize the person staring back at you in the mirror, the habits you're breaking, the clarity you're gaining, the depth of faith rising in your heart. The old you prayed for this transformation, but the old you can't survive where you're going next. So Allah dismantles the version of you that was built for survival to make space for the version of you that was built for elevation. And yes, it hurts, because transformation always feels like tearing at first. It feels like you're losing yourself. But in reality, you're finally meeting yourself. One day, you'll understand why Allah pulled you out of those rooms, why He disconnected you from certain people, why He replaced certain dreams with new ones that scare you and excite you at the same time. You'll realize that what you thought was loss was actually the removal of chains. Chains of comfort, chains of expectations, chains of smallness you didn't even know you were trapped in. And when those chains break, you step into a freedom you didn't know existed. A freedom where your identity is no longer built on who accepts you, who validates you, who chooses you. You'll finally see your worth through the eyes of the one who wrote it, not through the eyes of those who couldn't hold it. You keep wondering why the rooms that once felt like home now feel suffocating, why the voices that once made you laugh now leave your heart heavy, why the people you thought you'd walk this life with forever now feel like strangers you barely recognize. And sometimes you question yourself. Have I changed? Did I do something wrong? Why does nothing feel the same anymore? But here's the truth you don't see yet. You haven't broken. You've expanded. Your heart has grown. Your soul has stretched. Your vision has widened. And when Allah expands you on the inside, the outside world no longer fits the same. You sit in circles that once made you feel alive, but now you leave empty. You hear conversations that once drew you in, but now they drain you. You try to hold on to people, but the bond no longer feels real. This isn't arrogance. This isn't rejection. This is transformation. Allah is pulling you out of rooms that can no longer hold the person He's shaping you into. And it hurts, because your heart remembers the warmth those rooms once carried. But the version of you Allah is building now cannot breathe where the air is small. You see, comfort is dangerous. It whispers to you, stay here, don't change, don't grow, don't risk losing what you know. But comfort keeps you chained to what was when Allah has already written something greater for what's coming. If He let you stay where you once belonged, you would have settled for a life beneath what He created you for. If He let you keep what you thought you couldn't live without, you would have missed what was already waiting beyond it. Sometimes mercy feels like disconnection. Allah loves you too much to let you stay where your purpose would have died. Think about the times you begged Allah to keep someone, the nights you cried asking Him to save a friendship, a relationship, an opportunity you thought you couldn't live without. And still, He took it away. And still, the door closed. At the time, it broke you. But one day, you'll look back and realize His no was the most loving yes you'll ever receive. Because if He had given you what you wanted, you would have settled for less than what was written. Allah gave you wings, but some rooms you prayed to stay in were never designed for flight. And He knew if He let you stay, you would have clipped your own wings, just to make others comfortable. So He opened the cage. And yes, freedom hurts at first. The sky feels too big. The air feels too unfamiliar. But soon you'll realize you weren't created to crawl. You were created to rise. Remember those du'as you whispered. Ya Allah, make me stronger. Ya Allah, guide me. Ya Allah, take me closer to you. And now Allah is answering them by pulling you away from everything that kept you small, silent, and distant from Him. The people leaving, the circles breaking, the plans falling apart. They aren't accidents. They're instructions. Allah is teaching you, softly, silently, that you can't step into who you prayed to become, while still clinging to the version of you He's trying to replace. Here's the secret. Everything Allah removes, He replaces with better, even if the replacement isn't visible yet. The friend you lost, the plan that failed, the door that slammed shut. Each loss is an invitation. Each ending is really the start of something so much bigger than you imagined. You're not losing people. You're losing versions of yourself that could no longer carry the weight of your purpose. You're not the same person you used to be. Your soul feels it. Your heart knows it. And that's why the old places don't feel like home anymore. At first, you thought something was wrong with you. Why am I changing? Why does everything feel off? Why can't I go back to the way things were? But slowly, you start to understand. This isn't a breakdown. This is a rebirth. Because Allah has been answering prayers you forgot you made. Every time you whispered, "Ya Allah, take me closer to you," He heard you. And closeness comes with cleansing. Sometimes Allah purifies by adding, but more often He purifies by removing. There was a version of you that tolerated less than you deserved. There was a version of you that accepted being unseen, unheard, and unvalued. There was a version of you that found comfort in small rooms, even when those rooms were silently suffocating you. Allah loved you too much to leave you there, so He started tearing away every chain disguised as comfort. And yes, it hurts when He does it, because your heart is still tied to the memories. You still remember the laughter, the warmth, the forever promises. But Allah doesn't remove anything from your life without already knowing that it would have changed the person you're becoming. Do you know why it aches? Because growth feels like loss. Before it feels like liberation. You're shedding old versions of yourself, and every layer you lose feels like saying goodbye to the person you used to know so well. But that old self was built for survival. This new self is being built for elevation, and elevation requires lightness. It demands that you leave behind the weights you didn't even realize you were carrying. Think of how many times you begged Allah to keep someone who wasn't meant to stay. Think of the nights you cried, not knowing Allah was protecting you from a heartbreak far deeper than the one you felt. He saw intentions you couldn't see. He heard conversations you were never meant to hear. He knew the endings long before you met the beginnings, so He saved you. Quietly, painfully, perfectly. One day you'll look back and thank Him for every single door that closed, for every plan that collapsed, for every person who walked away, because you'll see it now. What you called losing was really Allah lifting you higher. He wasn't breaking you, He was breaking the cages around you. Everyone you've lost, every circle you've outgrown, every opportunity that slipped through your hands, it all has one thing in common. It couldn't go where Allah is taking you. The you He's shaping now cannot breathe the same air as the version of you He left behind. And when He finally unveils you, you'll understand why He kept you hidden, why He disconnected you, why He made you feel out of place in rooms you once begged to belong to, because you weren't being pushed out. You were being pulled forward. And when the day comes, you'll wake up and realize you're standing in a life you once thought you'd never survive without. You'll see the wisdom in every unanswered dua. You'll taste the sweetness in every painful ending, and you'll finally understand you didn't lose yourself. You found the person you were always meant to become. This right here, right now, is not rejection. It's redirection. It's divine rewriting. It's Allah saying, I made you for more than where you've been. And when you finally step into that more, your heart will whisper through grateful tears, Ya Allah, now I understand why you took me away. 5. When loneliness feels like a test. Some nights, the silence feels louder than your heartbeat. The world sleeps peacefully, but your chest aches with an emptiness you can't name. You stare at the ceiling in the dark, asking questions that never find answers. Why does it feel like everyone has left me? Why do I feel unseen, unheard, and forgotten? Ya Allah, why am I so alone? And in that stillness, you hear nothing but your own breath, It hurts. It feels endless. You start to wonder if Allah has left you too. But what you don't see yet is that this loneliness isn't a punishment. It's an invitation into a season where Allah teaches you something that no one else ever could, that His presence is the only one that never leaves. It feels unbearable sometimes, doesn't it? You scroll through your phone, but the people you used to talk to are gone. You pass familiar places, but the laughter that once filled them has faded. You stand among crowds, yet your heart whispers, "No one really sees me." But maybe this silence is Allah's mercy, because before He speaks, He often silences everything else. He removes the voices that once drowned out His whispers. He pulls you out of circles that blurred your vision of Him. He pauses the noise around you so you can finally hear what your soul's been longing for all along. This is why the loneliness feels so heavy. You're not just losing people, you're meeting yourself. And in meeting yourself, you're finally meeting Him. Think back. Remember those moments you begged Allah for guidance. Ya Allah, bring me closer to you. Ya Allah, make my heart stronger. Ya Allah, protect me from anything that takes me away from you. This is the answer. The loneliness you hate right now is the very gift you asked for. You just didn't expect it to arrive this way. Because sometimes to bring you closer to Him, Allah must first distance you from everything else. The strongest trees are built in silence. Their roots grow deepest, far beneath the surface in places no eye can see. That's what Allah is doing with you right now. You feel hidden, unnoticed, insignificant. But beneath the surface, He's strengthening the roots of your iman, because what He has written for you next requires a heart that depends on Him completely. If He gave you everything you prayed for now, your faith might still be leaning on people, on outcomes, on comfort. So He takes all of it away, not to break you, but to build you. This season of loneliness isn't Allah leaving you. It's Allah pulling you closer. The unanswered messages, the missed calls, the friendships that faded, the circles that dissolved, all of it is Him saying, "I want you to find me in the silence." He doesn't want pieces of you anymore. He wants your heart whole. He wants you to trust Him in ways you've never trusted anyone before. And so He takes you into this sacred emptiness where He strips away everything temporary so you can finally anchor yourself to the only presence that never disappears, His. You keep thinking you've been forgotten, but the truth is, you've been singled out, not for punishment, not for rejection, but for proximity. Because there are certain lessons Allah only teaches in silence. There are certain strengths He only plants in solitude. There are certain levels of faith you cannot reach until it's just you and Him. Look around you. The people you thought you needed aren't here. The voices you relied on are quiet now. The laughter you used to crave has faded into memories. It feels unfair, doesn't it? It feels like the world kept moving, and somehow you were left behind. But what if Allah kept you behind? Because He's pulling you ahead. Sometimes He slows you down, removes distractions, and places you in a season where it feels like everything stopped. Not because you're forgotten, but because you're being prepared. You can't see it yet, but there's a version of you emerging from this silence that wouldn't survive in the noise. Think of a barren land after a storm. The rain lashes violently. The winds strip away everything shallow. The earth looks ruined. But beneath the surface, the storm awakens seeds that were always there, hidden, waiting for the right time to grow. That's you right now. This loneliness you're enduring isn't lifelessness. It's planting season. Allah is breaking the ground of your heart to prepare it for what's coming next. When the storm passes, you won't just survive. You'll bloom in ways you never imagined. The nights you cried quietly into your pillow, thinking no one could see you, Allah saw. Not one tear fell without being counted. Indeed, Allah is with the patient. Qur'an 2:153. This pain is not wasted. This silence is not ignored. Every moment you sit in confusion, every whisper of Ya Allah, help me, every deep breath you take. When your chest feels too tight to carry the weight, all of it is seen. All of it is heard, all of it is recorded, and one day you'll realize that Allah was closer in these lonely nights than He ever was when you were surrounded by people. Think about it. When you had people to lean on, you rarely leaned on Him fully. When you had comfort around you, you rarely fell into sujood with a trembling heart. When you had endless conversations, you rarely sat in silence just to listen for His whispers. But now you have no one else, and that's why your heart is learning to finally say, Ya Allah, you are enough for me. This is why He isolates you, to become the friend you never lose, the refuge you never question, the companion who never abandons. Sometimes Allah loves you too much to let you settle where you don't belong, so He removes you. Quietly, painfully, perfectly, because He knows the heights He's taking you to, and He knows who and what cannot come with you. That's why the circle got smaller. That's why the plans fell apart. That's why people you once thought were permanent are no longer here. They weren't written for the chapter Allah is preparing next. You keep asking, Ya Allah, why am I alone? But what if I told you? This loneliness is proof that you are loved, because Allah hides the ones He loves. He pulls them away from the noise, the distractions, the attachments that would weaken their hearts. He separates you so He can speak to you directly. Every prophet had a wilderness, a hidden season, a time when everyone else moved on, and they were left alone with Allah. Musa alayhi salam wandered the desert before speaking to Fir'aun. Yusuf alayhi salam sat in the darkness of a prison before he was honored before a kingdom. Even our beloved prophet, peace be upon him, spent years retreating into the cave of Hira, alone, silent, unseen, until Allah sent the words that would change the world. Do you see the pattern? Loneliness always comes before elevation, because the heart cannot carry destiny until it learns to carry Allah first. Right now, you feel like you're walking through a desert. There's no shade, no familiar faces, no water to soothe your thirst. But this emptiness isn't empty. It's where Allah plants the seeds of strength, where your du'as dig deeper than they ever did before, where your love for Him finally grows roots that no storm can rip apart later, because the heights He's taking you to cannot be built on shallow faith. They require depth, and depth is carved in solitude. When there's no one to call, you learn to whisper His name louder. When there's no one to confide in, you start pouring your secrets into sujood. When there's no hand to hold, you begin to feel His closeness in your chest. And you realize what you thought was abandonment was actually an invitation into a love that never fades, a nearness that never disappears, a companionship that doesn't leave when everyone else does. It's in this season that your soul begins to heal. The heartbreak that once tore you apart becomes the very wound Allah pours His mercy into. You start to see that every unanswered dua wasn't ignored, it was postponed, because He was writing something greater. You realize that every person who left wasn't your loss, they were His protection. And you begin to understand this loneliness isn't the end of your story, it's the beginning. There will come a day when you'll look back at this exact moment, these lonely nights, these silent days, and you'll smile through tears because you'll see what Allah was protecting you from. You'll see what He was preparing you for, and you'll finally whisper, Ya Allah, you never left me, you were here all along. You'll see that you were never truly alone. You were simply being led into a place where your heart would learn to belong to Him before it belonged to anyone else. So tonight, as you sit in silence, let your soul rest in this truth. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. You are being held. This loneliness is a bridge, not a wall. It's carrying you closer to Allah than you've ever been before. Because sometimes Allah removes everyone, just so you'll finally discover that He was enough all along. and we are closer to him than his jugular vein. Qur'an 50:16. Your tears are not wasted. Your prayers are not unheard. Your pain is not unseen. This isn't punishment, it's preparation. It's proof that you are chosen. 6. The disconnections confirm your dua. You prayed for guidance. You begged Allah for clarity. You whispered through tears, Ya Allah, remove what's not good for me. Ya Allah, bring me closer to you. Ya Allah, protect me from anything that will harm my heart or my deen. And now, everything feels like it's falling apart. The people you loved are gone. The doors you trusted slammed shut. The plans you thought were certain dissolved into silence. And you sit there asking yourself, why, Ya Allah? Why does it feel like I'm losing everything? But you're not losing anything. You're receiving your answer. Because sometimes Allah answers your du'as. By subtracting before He multiplies, you see the hearts you clung to were standing in the way of what you asked Him for. The opportunities you chased would have taken you farther from the path you begged Him to guide you toward. The plans you built weren't aligned with the destiny He wrote for you, and since you asked for what was better, He began to remove what wasn't. You didn't recognize the answer because it came wrapped in pain. But every disconnection, every closed door, every fading voice is Allah saying softly, I heard your dua, trust me. Sometimes the mercy of Allah doesn't arrive by giving. It arrives by taking away. He saw intentions you couldn't see. He heard conversations you were never meant to hear. He knew betrayals your heart was too soft to carry, so He protected you in silence. That friend who turned cold, that relationship that ended suddenly, that opportunity that slipped through your hands. You thought they were your blessings, but He knew they were barriers, and because you asked for clarity, He began clearing the path. But your heart aches anyway, doesn't it? Because it loved what it lost. It trusted what was taken. It dreamed about what didn't last. And so you sit in confusion, thinking you were abandoned, when in reality you were rescued. You were begging Him to guide you, and He answered by removing everything that would have blinded you. Do you remember the last time you whispered, Ya Allah, bring me closer to you? This is the answer. Closeness requires cleansing, and cleansing requires letting go. But letting go hurts, because we don't see what He sees. We don't know what He knows. We cling to people and plans, as if they are permanent, forgetting that the one who writes the story knows which characters cannot stay for the next chapter. Right now, you're in the middle of an unfolding dua. The separation you didn't choose is the protection you once asked for. The heartbreak you didn't understand is the clarity you begged Him to give you. The loneliness you never expected is the space He's creating to bring you closer to Him before He brings you to what's next. It feels like subtraction, but it's preparation, because what's written for you is so much greater than what you thought you couldn't live without. And if He hadn't removed what He did, you wouldn't be able to receive what He's bringing. Your hands would be too full, your heart too attached, your vision too clouded. So He clears the path first, even when you cry for Him not to. One day, you'll thank Him for every person who left, because their absence will make room for souls who love you purely. You'll thank Him for every closed door, because behind it, He'll open gates you didn't even know existed. You'll thank Him for every dream that died, because He'll replace it with plans so beautiful, so divine, you'll wonder why you ever begged for less. Right now, your job isn't to understand, it's to trust, because the same Allah who heard your whispered du'as is the one moving pieces behind the veil to align your heart with what you prayed for. And when it finally comes together, you'll whisper through your tears, Ya Allah, you never ignored me. You were answering me all along. You keep replaying memories in your head, the laughter, the conversations, the promises, and you can't understand how something that once felt so permanent could vanish so suddenly. Ya Allah, why did you take them away? Why did you close this door when I begged you to open it? Why do I feel like everything I love is being stripped away from me? And yet, what you see as loss is actually love. Because long before you knew the danger, Allah already saw the ending. He heard whispers you didn't hear. He saw betrayals your heart wasn't ready to face. He knew the storms hidden behind what you thought was safe. So, He removed you, quietly, perfectly, mercifully. Imagine standing beneath a sky full of heavy, dark clouds. The storm comes suddenly. The rain pours violently. The winds tear through everything shallow and weak. It feels destructive. It feels endless. It feels unfair. But then the storm passes. The air clears. The sun returns. And only what was strong enough to endure remains. That's what Allah is doing with you. He's sending a storm to wash away the attachments that would have destroyed you later. And when the skies clear, you'll realize He never took anything except what was standing in the way of what you prayed for. Sometimes the duas you make with your lips aren't as loud as the ones your heart whispers in silence. You asked Allah for peace. You begged Him for guidance. You cried for a heart that loves Him more than this world. And He heard you. But to answer those prayers, He had to remove what pulled you away from Him. He had to close doors you were forcing open. He had to separate you from people who would have drowned the very faith. You begged Him to strengthen it. This isn't rejection, it's redirection. It's Allah moving you away from what you would have settled for, so He can bring you to what you were created for. Think of the moments you begged Allah for something specific. You thought it was perfect. You thought it was safe. You thought it was written. But the answer was silence, or worse, a painful no. You didn't understand it then, but one day you'll see it clearly. What you called rejection was actually divine protection, because Allah doesn't delay to punish you. He delays because what you want isn't ready yet, or because you aren't ready yet. Sometimes Allah subtracts to multiply. A gardener cuts branches, not to harm the tree, but to make space for new growth. He removes leaves that drain life, so the tree can bloom stronger and fuller in its next season. That's what Allah is doing with your life. He's pruning away relationships, opportunities, and plans that would have stunted your growth. And yes, pruning hurts. It always does. But it's the pain that creates room for better. Right now, your heart aches, because you're trying to understand a story while it's still being written. But you weren't meant to see every reason yet. You were meant to trust the author. Allah knows what He's doing. He's never taken anything from you except to give you something better. Better for your heart. Better for your faith. Better for your future. You just can't see it yet because you're standing in the middle of the sentence. But one day you'll look back and it'll all make sense. You'll whisper through grateful tears, "Ya Allah, you answered every dua in ways I didn't understand then, but I see it clearly now. You thought you were being abandoned, but you were being answered. Every person who left, every door that closed, every plan that collapsed wasn't rejection, it was protection. Because Allah heard your duas long before you whispered them, and He knew what your heart couldn't. Some people would have broken you, some paths would have delayed you, some plans would have drowned you, so He removed them, quietly, mercifully. And yes, it hurts now. But one day, you'll look back and whisper, through grateful tears, "Ya Allah, you never ignored me. You were answering me all along. Trust this season. The disconnections are not the end. They're the beginning. A clearing of the path, so what's written for you can finally reach you." 7. Solitude is where Allah rebuilds you. You keep wondering why you've been pulled away from everything familiar. The people you trusted, the rooms you once belonged to, the plans you thought were permanent. All of it, fading quietly until all that's left is you. At first it feels like punishment. Why is everyone leaving me? Why do I feel so unseen, so forgotten, so alone? Ya Allah, what did I do wrong? But here's the truth your heart hasn't realized yet. You haven't been abandoned. You've been invited into a space where distractions die and clarity is born. invited into a silence where Allah speaks to your heart directly, invited into solitude, not to break you, but to rebuild you. When Allah loves someone, He often removes them from the noise, because there are versions of you that can only be built in the quiet. There are wounds inside you that can only be healed in stillness. There is faith inside you that can only be strengthened when every other voice is gone except His. So He pulls you away from the circles that used to make sense, from the people you thought you couldn't live without, from plans that once defined your worth. And yes, it hurts, because we love what we lose. But what feels like loss right now is actually construction. Do you know why solitude feels so heavy? Because you've spent so long building your identity on everything outside you, who you are to them, where you belong, what you've achieved, who chooses you, who validates you. And then Allah takes it all away, so you can finally discover who you are, without any of it. Because He doesn't just want the surface version of you, He wants the real you, the one beneath the masks, the one beneath the noise, the one your soul aches to meet. There's a reason the prophets were sent into solitude before they were given their missions. Musa alayhi salam spent years in the wilderness. Yusuf alayhi salam was placed in a prison cell, forgotten by the world. Even our beloved prophet, peace be upon him, retreated to the cave of Hira, alone, silent, unseen, before the words of revelation descended. Because solitude is where Allah strips away everything unnecessary, so He can give you everything essential. Right now, it feels quiet. But this isn't emptiness. It's alignment. Allah is realigning your heart. He's removing what weakens you so He can strengthen what sustains you. He's tearing down false identities so He can rebuild you on foundations that cannot break. He's rebuilding your trust, reconstructing your patience, restoring your faith. And when He's done, you won't just recognize yourself. You'll recognize Him in ways you never have before. This season isn't here to harm you. It's here to teach you the beauty of depending on Allah alone. Because when the crowd disappears, you finally realize He was always there. When the voices go silent, you finally hear His whispers. When the world turns away, you finally see who never left. Indeed, Allah is with those who are patient. Qur'an 2:153. And that's the secret hidden inside this solitude. It's where Allah rebuilds your strength, reshapes your heart, and teaches you to stand with Him before you ever stand before the world again. You keep thinking solitude means being forgotten. But what if I told you this silence is proof that you've been chosen? Because Allah doesn't rebuild in the crowd. He rebuilds in the quiet. He rebuilds when no one is watching. He rebuilds in the moments where you feel unseen, unheard, and unimportant. But to Him, you are closer than ever. Sometimes Allah breaks you down first, because He knows the foundation you built on was never strong enough to hold the life He's preparing for you. You thought those relationships defined you. You thought those plans were permanent. You thought those rooms were home. So He takes them away, one by one, quietly, painfully, not to destroy you, but to free you from everything that was never meant to hold you, because the person you're becoming cannot stand on the same foundations. That kept the old you trapped, this solitude you're sitting in right now. It's not emptiness, it's a workshop. Here, Allah chisels away everything false and temporary, the fears that once controlled you, the attachments that weakened you, the identities you built on people, on places, on achievements. One by one, He removes them, not because you are unworthy, but because you are worth so much more. In this quiet, He refines you. He teaches you patience. He teaches you surrender. He teaches you who you are when the applause disappears and all that's left is you and Him. Do you know why this silence feels uncomfortable? Because we've spent so long trying to fill the void with noise. We scroll endlessly. We cling to people. We chase plans, achievements, distractions, anything to avoid sitting with ourselves. But Allah removes the noise because He wants you to finally hear Him. This stillness you're resisting isn't a pause. It's positioning, because where He's taking you next requires a heart that knows how to be still with Him before it walks among the chaos of the world. Think about it. When was the last time you sat in sujood and cried without words? When was the last time you spoke to Allah as though no one else existed? When was the last time you sat in silence and just felt His closeness without reaching for your phone, without running to anyone else, without numbing the ache? This is why He brings you here, to remind you that the greatest companionship you'll ever know is the one who has been with you all along, and we are closer to Him than His jugular vein. Qur'an 50:16. Stop seeing this as a punishment. Stop mistaking this rebuilding for rejection. Your solitude is sacred. It's where Allah prepares your heart for blessings your hands can't yet hold. It's where He strengthens you quietly. So when the world finally sees you, you won't break under the weight of what He's giving you. You'll walk into the next chapter, lighter, freer, rooted, deeper than ever before, because what's being built in secret will one day be revealed in strength. You thought solitude meant being forgotten, but soon you'll realize this was where Allah was shaping you. A seed breaks in the darkness. Long before it blooms in the light, a diamond is formed under pressure, long before it shines before the world. A heart is rebuilt in silence, long before it walks into its next chapter. That's what this season is. Not punishment, not abandonment, but preparation. One day, you'll look back and whisper, "Ya Allah, this was where you healed me. This was where you made me strong. This was where you rebuilt me." So breathe, rest, trust the silence, because Allah is doing His greatest work in the parts of your life no one else can see. 8. The disconnect is the door. You thought the disconnect meant the ending. You thought the silence was punishment. You thought being pulled away from people, places, and dreams was Allah closing doors on you. But what you don't see yet is that the disconnect is the door, because sometimes Allah has to separate you. Before He elevates you, He has to pull you away from what's familiar, to guide you into what's written. He has to empty your hands before He can fill them with something better. You cried for this, remember? Ya Allah, guide me. Ya Allah, protect me. Ya Allah, bring me closer to you. And now everything feels like it's falling apart. But it's not falling apart. It's falling into place. Every separation, every silent season, every friendship that faded, every opportunity that vanished, every plan that collapsed. None of it is random. It's the divine rearrangement you prayed for. Sometimes Allah answers your du'as by removing what you thought you needed most, because you didn't see what He saw. You didn't know what He knew. You didn't hear the whispers He heard. That relationship you begged Him to save would have broken you later. That door you tried to force open would have trapped your soul. That dream you clung to would have distracted you from what you were made for. So He removed them. Quietly, perfectly, mercifully. It doesn't feel like mercy right now, does it? It feels like pain. It feels like loss. It feels like betrayal. But pain is often the wrapping paper of mercy. Sometimes Allah has to let your heart break so He can rebuild it around Him. He has to disconnect you from what's temporary to connect you to what's eternal. Do you know why this hurts so much? Because you're still looking back at the closed doors, not realizing there are gates waiting ahead of you. What you lost wasn't your destiny. It was a distraction. And one day you'll see it clearly. You'll smile through tears and whisper, "Ya Allah, had you not closed that door, I would have missed the life you wrote for me." Right now, Allah is moving you quietly. He's guiding you to a chapter your heart hasn't even imagined yet, but He has to get you there empty-handed, because what's waiting ahead cannot fit alongside what He removed. That's why the disconnect feels lonely. That's why the path feels quiet. That's why it feels like everyone else moved on. While you're standing still. You're not standing still. You're being positioned. You haven't been rejected. You've been redirected. You haven't been abandoned. You've been handpicked because there are blessings waiting for you that require a lighter heart, cleaner hands, and deeper faith. And so Allah disconnects you now to prepare you for what's coming. One day you'll look back and understand. You'll see how the heartbreak was actually healing, how the silence was actually guidance, how the disconnections were actually doors opening in disguise, and you'll whisper through grateful tears, Ya Allah, you never took anything from me without already preparing something better. You keep staring at the door that closed, wishing it would open the way it used to. But doors don't close to keep you out. Sometimes they close to turn you toward the one you were always meant to walk through. Think of a river. When its old path dries, it doesn't die. It carves a new course toward the ocean it was created for. That shift looks like loss until you see the sea. This is what Allah is doing with you. He is turning you gently, firmly, away from what would have kept you small, so you can step into what was written with your name on it long before you could pronounce hope. The disconnect is not a wall, it's a hinge. It's the quiet turn of your story, so soft you almost miss it, so powerful nothing can undo it. You asked for guidance, you asked for a clean heart, you asked for a life that pulls you nearer to Allah. Guidance rarely arrives as glitter. More often it comes as subtraction, silence, and a path that demands trust with every step. A cup cannot be filled while it's already full. So He empties you of old attachments, of noisy rooms, of borrowed identities, not because He delights in your ache, but because He delights in your becoming. You call it loneliness. He calls it preparation. You call it delay. He calls it alignment. You call it the end. He calls it the door. Remember the cocoon. Inside, the caterpillar dissolves into something unrecognizable. From the outside, it looks like stillness. Inside, there is a miracle underway. The disconnect is your cocoon, quiet, sealed, sacred. Wings are being written in places no one can see. There are fingerprints on your heart that were never meant to stay. He cleans them with longing. He rinses them with tears. He polishes you with prayers you didn't know were answers in disguise. You think you're being reduced. You're being refined. Some nights the ache will argue, go back, call them, force the door. But a key that used to fit will not open what Allah has already locked. Mercy stands on both sides of this. Mercy that closed it. Mercy that will open another when you are ready to walk through without breaking. Notice what is changing inside you. The conversations you now refuse because they stain your peace. The places you no longer visit because your soul feels heavy there. The habits that crumble because they no longer taste like you. This isn't failure. This is evidence the door is already turning. Storms come first to clear the sky. Pruning comes before fruit. Night falls before the most honest sujood. What is leaving is what would have leaked your future. What is coming needs room. You ask to be protected. Protection sometimes looks like being pulled back when your feet are running in the wrong direction. You ask to be elevated. Elevation begins with a descent into quiet, into trust, into hands that never let go. There is a map being drawn over your life. You can't read it yet because you're standing on the lines, but the cartographer is the one who knows where oceans wait and where deserts must be crossed. Every step you're taking now is traced by the same mercy that wrote your first breath. Close your eyes for a moment and listen deeper than fear. Beneath the noise, there is a sentence forming. Keep walking. I am with you. That isn't optimism, that's remembrance. What is meant for you does not hide behind people who can't love you cleanly. What is written for you does not require you to betray your salah, your self-respect, your serenity. What is coming to you will not demand you shrink to fit. It will ask you to stand to receive. The tide that feels like it pulled you back. It's the same tide that gathers strength to carry you farther than you could swim alone. Retreat is not defeat when Allah commands the water. One day soon you will thank Him for every unanswered message, every unanswered prayer, every unexplained turn. You will see the thin places where light came through the cracks. You will see how the hallway you hated was the mercy that kept you moving until the door you needed found your hand. When your chest tightens, breathe this quietly. Hasbiya Allah. Allah is enough for me, not as a slogan. As oxygen, each breath becomes a bridge. Each enough becomes a step. And when you don't know what to ask anymore, borrow the plea of a servant who stood empty and was fed. Rabbi in lima anzalta ilayya min khairin faqar. My Allah, I am in desperate need of whatever good you send down. Need is not weakness in this language. Need is the doorknob. Walk forward without the weight you used to carry. Let the old keys stay where they fell. Place your palm on the quiet wood of this moment and press. Doors that are yours do not resist your peace. You are not late. You are not lost. You are being led. And when this turns, because it will turn, you will cross into a life that feels like oxygen after years of holding your breath. You will touch blessings that fit your hands without cutting your skin. You will stand in a room that doesn't ask you to choose between your deen and your destiny. Then you'll look back at the hallway, at the lock, at the ache, and you'll whisper, smiling through grateful tears, the disconnect was the door. One day, you'll understand. One day, you'll look back and see how every disconnection, every ending, every unanswered prayer was never meant to destroy you. It was guiding you, protecting you, positioning you, because Allah never closes a door without already preparing the one that's meant for you. And when you finally step through it, when you finally breathe freely, when your heart finally whispers Alhamdulillah through grateful tears, you'll realize the pain was the path, the silence was the answer, the disconnect was the door. Trust Him. What's ahead is greater than what you left behind.